With the most recent patch to Baldur's Gate 3, Larian Studios has opened Pandora's box of mods. The Baldur's Gate 3 toolkit has allowed for some pretty awesome people to make some pretty awesome mods. And some weird ones. We're not here for smooth Shadowheart, which is exactly what you think it is. No, today we're here for PokeFlask. PokeFlask is a mod that allows you to capture NPCs and then release them to battle alongside you. This is awesome, not only because I love Baldur's Gate and Pokemon, but because I already had this idea with Elden Ring. I would kill an enemy and then use it as my own summon. So, continuing the I turned X game into a Pokemon game, I'm going to beat Baldur's Gate 3 using the PokeFlask mod. Though, to be clear, I didn't really turn anything into anything. This mod was made by Jim Slim, and the full credit goes to them. I'll leave a link to the Nexus mod page in the description. Go give them some love. They've been really nice and responsive to my many questions. Also, credit to CoolLol on Twitter who tweeted at me and showed me the mod. Now, when I say I'm gonna beat the game using the PokeFlask mod, what exactly does that mean? Well, I've set some rules for me to follow that will allow me to beat Baldur's Gate 3 as if it were a Pokemon game. Firstly, to catch a Baldermon, as I will now be calling them, I have to get its health to 25% or lower, or simply knock them out somehow. And you can also only catch one Mon per battle, so I'd better choose wisely. Secondly, I can't fight alongside my Mons once I've got a full squad of 6. Just like how you normally have 6 Pokemon in your party. Thirdly, and maybe most importantly, I can't ever have more than 6 Baldermon out at a time. Unlike Elden Ring, where I could only use one Eldamon at a time, I'll be building my own party of Baldermon to fight together as a team. But again, only 6 active members at a time. And lastly, if a Baldermon dies, it's dead for good. To beat the game, I'll have to conquer the 8 gyms, the 4 Elite Four members, and my rival/champion. And to keep things fair, I won't be able to catch any of those folks or the people backing them up during their fights. So, sounds pretty cool, right? Well, you know what else is cool? It is everyone's favorite time of the year, Halloween time. And to celebrate this wonderful holiday, Raid has an awesome collection of spooky characters to help get you in the mood. I'd like to show you some of my top 3 favorites, starting with Brachus the Shifter. Brachus is an up-close and personal type of fellow, and one who you definitely wouldn't want to see running at you. Then we have the Masked Fearmonger. This guy has a really creepy vibe about him, and that mask heebies my jeebies. To round us out, we have Harvest Jack. This is probably one of my favorite character designs in the game. And if those scary gentlemen aren't enough to get you excited to play, then check out Raid's new event, the Asgard Divide. The event runs from August 21st to November 22nd, and during it, players will be able to collect 4 champions based off of Norse mythology. Everyone can get the legendary champion Loki the Deceiver for free simply by logging into Raid for 7 days between now and October 23rd. If you haven't started playing Raid yet, then now is a great time to start. Even better if you use my link or QR code to get some great bonuses, including a huge starter pack with the epic champion Uugo. And after you reach level 15, you will be rewarded with another epic champion, Fayne. And if you use promo code Monkey King, you can unlock the legendary champion Sun Wukong from now until October 31st. If you decide to play, you should join my clan. Thank you to Raid for supporting the channel. Now back to the video. So diving right in, I set the difficulty to balanced. I did this because if I set it higher, enemies will be really strong, which means when I catch them, they'll be a little too strong, and I don't want this challenge to be too easy. Though I learned, after completing this challenge, that Tactician is the recommended setting. My bad. Then, as far as my character goes, I carried on the Dumpy Ketchum legacy by creating Dumpy K the 4th. I tried to make her look sorta unique, like how the Pokemon trainers usually do. I'm a fighter, so that way if I get in a fight and I'm not ready, I can use Action Surge to throw out 2 of my Mons, or at least have an extra action to catch a new one. For my Guardian, I tried to make him look kinda like Gary Oak, but I'm not sure if I succeeded or not. He's kinda scary looking. Then we're all set up and starting off in the Nautiloid as per usual. In the Pokemon games, you'd get to pick a starter from a lineup of 3. In Pokegate, you get to pick your starter out of this guy's skull. We run into lae'zel very shortly thereafter, and she'll be joining me for the time being. Altogether, we fought off the first wave of imps, and I made sure to leave one of them alive so that I could come back and catch it. I don't have my PokeFlasks yet, but just a bit further into the ship, we find 40 of them. 40 might not seem like a lot, but they're reusable, so I think this is more than enough. Unlike lae'zel, Shadowheart will be joining us permanently. Think of her like the Misty to my Ash. After freeing her, I went down, caught the imp, and got this pop-up. It asks if I'd like to control control the Baldurmon myself. And this is where I realized I forgot to mention that this is actually my second attempt at this video. You see, I started a character when the mod was brand new, and at that time it was really buggy, but more importantly, you weren't able to control your Baldurmon manually. They would just do their own thing, and you'd have to hope they weren't stupid. But our boy Jim Slim has been hard at work, and now it's possible to catch and control the Baldurmon. So I started all over because that's just way too cool to pass up. Anyways, I've got my new friends and we're all headed to the helm. Now look, I absolutely could have stood here and watched Zulk and the Mind Flayer duke it out and then yoinked one of them when they were below 25% health. And to be fair, I think most people would. I mean, it's not against the rules, but I feel like these guys would be way too strong for the early game, or really until Act 3, honestly. And like I said about the difficulty earlier, I don't want this challenge to be too easy. So I ran to the transponder, connected the nerves, and got the hell out of hell. I crash landed on the beach and woke Shart up. She's coming along, but I'm gonna try and keep her involvement in any battle to an absolute minimum. Speaking of battle, it's time for our first non-Nautiloid battle. This is where I realized that I totally forgot us on the ship. Whoops! Without him though, me and my imp fought against these intellect devourers and... oh man, my imp. Well, at least I replaced the imp with a stronger mon. After that, I sent Astarion to camp, killed this injured Mind Flayer for the XP. You can't catch it, this guy specifically is kind of bugged. And then saved Gale from the wormhole. I was planning on bringing Gale around to act as my Brock, and I do for a while, but spoiler alert, I end up ditching him at some point, because things get too cluttered once I have a full team. I also fought with Demaze and Nymessa, and I caught the latter. I then went and lost her in the ruins not more than 5 minutes after catching her. I basically traded her for Quelena though, who didn't have all of her spells for some reason. I think it's because I had it on the balance difficulty. I don't know, it's a little weird. I went into the ruins through the front door so that I could catch Andorn while he was alone. And then we got into a very ugly battle where I lost Nymessa, the Intellect Devourer, and Andorn. But I gained Hasaid. This is not going well so far. It went better against the skeleton folks though, and I even caught the Entombed Warrior. My team kind of blows at the moment, but I've got to keep trucking on, heading next to the Emerald Grove. I caught the strongest of the goblin bunch, Zakrug, and then inside of the grove itself, I caught the Bugbear Assassin. See, just like that, we went from a terrible team to a sort of serviceable team. I wasn't done catching folks in the grove yet though, because I next caught Warrior Gresh down in the caves. That brought us to level 3, and then I went around and ran some errands. I saved Arabella, befriended Silver, and then realized I totally forgot that Findal was lying unconscious in the cave, so I added him to my team as well. Which, hey, that means we've got a full team. It's not a great team, but it's full. With my full team, I left the grove in search of some tougher mons. I may have thought too big though, because I next found myself in the Owlbear Cave. We did battle with the beast, and by the grace of one of them many gods, we caught it without losing a single person. That is such a huge pickup for us, especially this early in the game. I also picked up Scratch, but I just sent him to camp. I don't want him on my team because I don't want him to die. We're not done picking up folks yet though, because we also ran into Karlak. Unfortunately for her, she will be sitting in camp for the rest of the game. I did her a favor though and got rid of those Paladins of Tyr. I even caught Anders, the strongest of the bunch. Though I unfortunately lost Findal, and then when the battle was over, Zakrug died to poison damage. Shoot. Now, like I said earlier, I've played this mod a decent bit already, and I've got some people in mind that I really want to add to my team. Before I could reach my target though, I fended off an attack from these hyenas and their big gnoll brothers. I caught one for shits and giggles, and kept on towards the person I really wanted. That person is Buthir, the kinky ogre. She's a hard hitter and should make for a decent Act 1 tank. I also grabbed Gandrel, so now I've got a decent balance of ranged attacks and close-up fighters. To really round out my team though, I'd like a magic user of some kind. How about, I don't know, Anti-Ethel? I know we moved ridiculously fast leading here, but I was able to secure Ethel without losing anyone, which frankly is shocking. She's not quite as powerful as I expected her to be, but she's certainly a good addition. Our team is pretty damn good, but what if I told you that we are just getting started? I went back up the road to where we fought those gnolls and confronted the head honcho, Flind. We jumped the poor bastard, and after only a single turn, we caught her. I replaced Hasaid with Flind, and now we no longer have a weak link. But I still wasn't done. I murdered Rugen and Ollie in cold blood and took the Iron Flask. Inside is our newest addition, the Spectator. Now, in hindsight, I probably should have set some sort of rule about jumping lone opponents because we beat the dog shit out of the Spectator and added him to our party. giving Gandrel a break for now. Okay, surely it's time for the first gym now, right? Well, if I'm asking, then the answer is probably no. I really pushed my luck by heading next towards the mountain pass. I can't go to the pass yet because I haven't beaten this area's gym leader, but I can take on the Githyanki that are standing outside. As we've done so many times now, I started a fight and absolutely demolished the opposition. I saved Beretha for last, and together we hurt her bad enough to catch her. After doing that, I wrote in my notes, "Oh no, my team is too strong, LOL." Well, it definitely was, but I've got one more person I'd like to add. Before I could though, I ran into my rival. That's right, Raphael is not only my rival, Raphael. Huh. That's right. Raphael is not only my rival, but he'll be the final boss in Act 3. Back to breaking the game though, in the Whispering Depths, we took on the Fayne Spider Matriarch. I'm starting to kind of feel guilty for how powerful my team is because, and I'm running out of ways to say it, we messed her shit up. Like demoralizingly so. With that, I think it's time to pump the brakes and recap my team thus far. I've got the Owlbear, who is not only a tank, but is able to use multi-attack to shred enemies. Flind, the most powerful Gnoll in the game, who can do like 40-something damage with a single hit. A Spectator, who can essentially attack 3 times in a turn, with one of those attacks being able to potentially paralyze someone. Anti-Ethel, who doesn't really need much explanation. Sarf Beretha, a Githyanki fighter who can not only parry, but has an extra attack. And the Fayne Spider Matriarch, who, with the Spider Queen's Wrath, can attack twice in a turn, either dealing massive poison damage at close range, or shoot venom from a distance. Oh, and she can teleport, of course. Those poor goblin losers don't stand a chance. I walked up to the goblin camp, talked my way in, and then got mind assaulted by the Absolute. Or should I say, the leader of Team Galactic. Yeah, I don't know, it just kind of felt more fitting than Team Rocket. We'll worry about that freak later, but for now, we gotta take on our first gym. This gym consists of 3 leaders, and to get our badge, we need to take them all out without recalling and healing my Baldermon. That way, it's kind of like one long fight. Starting with Priestess Gut and her cronies, we were on a tear. We killed almost all of them in a single turn, but Flind finished off Zerga on turn 2 to secure the first of our 3 wins. We carried on next to Minthara. Ethel started off the fight real well by successfully holding Minthara in place. That let Flind land a huge shot, and though the little goblin guys tried to save her, they were ultimately unsuccessful. We shut them down, and then Beretha killed Minthara. Then we've just got the big man himself left, Dror Ragzlin. We began that fight by focusing heavily on him. Ethel blasted him, Flind pounded him, and after the Matriarch killed these dorks, the Spectator paralyzed him. That gave us time to slaughter some of the little guys. One of them was able to call in some reinforcements with the War Drum, but that wasn't gonna save them from the veritable firing squad that I had gathered. They got brutalized, and then Raggy finally got a turn. He hit decently hard, but it was all for naught, because Flind then smashed him for like 45 damage. I finished the goblin reinforcements off, and with them all dead, I had earned my first badge, the Goblin Badge. That night, I got a visit from my good buddy Gary Oak. He looks a little like Clint Stevens without the glasses. Then that morning, we took care of the goblins outside of the camp, which earned us a little party with the tieflings. Of course, the only person I was interested in partying with was Shadowheart. I think I've had this scene in every Baldur's Gate video I've ever made. What can I say? I've got a type, and that type is S-H-A-R-T. So Act 1 is over, and now it's time for Act 1.5. On the way to the Underdark, I caught Pulma, and then once we were down there, I got a Minotaur. Then I accidentally got fucked up by some shrooms, and Shadowheart turned into the Joker. Speaking of Joker, jumping single enemies just kind of feels like a joke because we caught the Bulette without really any trouble, which just strengthens my already ridiculous team. Don't worry folks, I promise it's not this easy forever. Our next gym leader is across the lake, and to get there, I first need to take on these Dwergar. I made sure to catch Gek because I assumed his ability to raise a mass horde of dead folks would be useful, but if I'm being totally honest, after I caught him, I just kind of forgot about that and I never ended up actually using him. We took their boats across the lake, stopping halfway to catch Corsair Greymon and kill all of his friends, and then once we were on the other side, I risked my life to grab the Idol of Shar for my emo baby. I then got a good night's rest because the next morning we went deeper into this place to find the Grim Forge. In here we faced the second gym leader, Grim, eternal protector of the Forge. Grim is an absolute menace, and I must have gotten too excited for this fight because I started with only 2 mons out. Like I said, Grim is a monster and has more resistances than I have damage types to deal. That being said, I summoned the whole gang and they got right to work. Flynn managed to do a whole 12 damage with her first attack, which against Grim, that's pretty good. And because Grim is immune to poison, the Spider Queen had to get up close and personal to hurt him. Ethel was useless except for her melee attack because she can't hold him, can't do vicious mockery, and can't use poison spray. Grim took it easy on us on his first turn though, only targeting the matriarch and then stepping right back into the lava. The owlbear came up short on her turn, and then I really wasn't sure what to do with the Minotaur. I opted not to risk his life by diving into the lava and just skipped his turn. The Bulette hit him with the Hawk Tua, and then Spidey tried to get Grim under the Forge Hammer by hitting him and running. Grim basically wasted his next turn, and then the Minotaur put it all on the line by baiting him. Grim took the bait, but when the Minotaur tried to get away, he got laid out. I would be an idiot to waste this opportunity though, so the owlbear flipped the switch, killing the Minotaur and dealing 146 damage to Grim. We wouldn't let the Minotaur's sacrifice be in vain. Grim was stupid enough to step back into the lava, which allowed us to start hurting him again. Now, honestly, I was ready to have Flynn sacrifice herself as well, but Grim didn't fall for it this time. The Bulette did some decent damage with its big fat butt, but Grim really wanted the matriarch dead for some reason. The Bulette wasn't done yet though and hit him with a huge bite. The queen failed to hurt him, but Ethel finally landed something. I went full tilt boogie on this guy, having everyone on my team throw everything they had at him, but Grim was hitting back and he was hitting harder. Eventually though, we got Grim down to one single bit of health, and after recalling the matriarch and the Bulette to be safe, it was Ethel who put Grim down for good. It was brutal, but thanks to the Minotaur's beautiful sacrifice, we've earned our second badge, the Badge of the Forge. Okay, so that was a roller coaster, but once that was over, I stopped and fought Nier and his friends, capturing Nier in the process. Then we went straight to the mountain pass. Before dealing with our next gym leader inside the creche, I stopped and battled these ghouls. I was looking to catch a Death Shepherd, and once I did, he was kinda mid. I mean, I guess he's decent backup, but with that off my mind, I could go into the creche. I wasted 0 time here, and started a battle with Therazin right away. I caught her, of course, but she's not who we're here for. We're here for her boss, the third gym leader, Inquisitor Wargaz. Ethel is much more useful against humanoids, proving that by holding Wargaz. This allowed Flynn to land a big shot, reminiscent of what happened to Minthara, and then the matriarch did a fucked up amount of damage to him. He was knocking on death's door by the spectator's turn, and my boy opened up and let him right in. After that awesome battle with Grim, this one was really underwhelming. His lackeys were lacking, and when the dust had settled, Vlaakith herself appeared to give me my badge. She totally didn't show up to yell at me. She came for the badge. Jokes aside, we are done with Act 1.5, and I have earned my third badge, the Astral Badge. So I think many of you are wondering the same thing. Isn't Elminster at the start of Act 2? And the answer is yes, he sure is. Well, his simulacrum at least. In fact, I even fought him and managed to catch him. I mean, there's not much a wizard can do when you're getting gangbanged like this. That being said though, after looking at what he could do, I decided not to use him. He's level fucking 20, and frankly, I like my team, and I don't think we need a babysitter. I might regret it later, but I loaded back to before I caught him and instead sent him to our camp. With that out of the way, we were finally in the Shadow-Cursed lands and well on our way to being the very best there ever was. The first thing I always do in Act 2 is run to Last Light and get a blessing from Isabel. Not that you could see it because the spectator's big ol' head was in the way. Marcus showed up shortly thereafter and tried to kidnap Isabel. We weren't gonna let that happen, though Isabel did get her ass beat pretty bad. We saved her though, and even were able to catch Marcus in the process. He's not that great, but like the Death Shepherd, he makes for okay backup. After saving the day, we went to sleep and Gary showed up in that stupid fucking outfit. It's crazy that they put this fit on your Guardian and then it just never comes up again. Terrible fashion aside, there are some things I'd like to get done. Or more specifically, some people I'd like to catch. The first and maybe most obvious one was the Drider Karnis. He's a force to be reckoned with, and he took Ethel's place for now. We hit level 6. I know, I missed a couple levels, my bad. And then we all fought off some shadow folk around the statue. I came here because under the statue there's some tough cookies. 3 cookies in fact. One of them is of particular interest to me, and that's the Charismatic Sentinel. There's one more person I need to really be set, and that is the Shambling Mound. Once you kill one of the Blight guys, the other ones kind of just do the rest of the work for you by exploding, and after a huge bite from the Bulette, the Shambling Mound was as good as mine. Honestly, I think I've built maybe the most broken team possible at the moment, and so with my new friends, I began the 4th gym battle. This one, like the first gym battle ever, is a 3-parter. Starting with Garangoth, my team ignored her completely and targeted the Visages. We killed the Visage of Obedience, and after the remaining ones got a turn, the Bulette killed the Visage of Guilt, and Garangoth failed to really do anything. We then killed the Heartlessness, Regret, and Cowardice Visages, and that left poor little Garangoth naked, and Flind Old Yellered her, which is incredibly ironic considering Flind is basically a big rabid dog. On to the second part of this long gym battle, I went next to the Waning Moon. This Abald is way tougher than he gets credit for, and you're gonna be hard pressed to beat him in a few turns. You've gotta wait a good amount of turns until he gets too filled up and can't do much anymore. So, we stalled as long as we could, killing the Blighted Barfolk and taking all of this Abald's attacks. After he had done a shit ton of damage to the Shambling Mound and Bulette, we were able to take him out. That, of course, leaves us with the third and final Thorm, for now, Malice Thorm. Saving Malice, the toughest of the three for last, may have been a bad decision because my team was pretty torn up by now. Still though, we did all we could to hurt the big guy. The Spider Queen had a great turn, but the rest of my team really struggled. The Bulette got stuck in this hallway, and that meant he couldn't do his belly flop, so he had to settle for biting. Car-Nis was Car-Miss, and Spidey couldn't keep up her good luck. Then one of Malice's little fuck dolls killed my Bulette, and that is a big loss. Then Malice hit the Spider Queen for 52 dang damage, and Car-Nis got paralyzed. Frankly, things were looking awful. The Shambling Mound wasn't able to do anything except get slapped, so I called him back to be safe, and then realized that Flind wasn't even in the fight. She was just sitting outside. She came running, and my hopes started to rise. I tried to heal the matriarch a little bit, but them little girls were determined to keep us on the back foot. They were relentless, and all their screeching ended up killing my spider friend. Malice was at about half health, and to keep him there, I'd have to kill his nurses. We finally got rid of them, and were able to go hard on Malice. Our go hard still wasn't that hard though, and we entered an obnoxious loop where he would revive or nurse, I'd kill it again so they couldn't team up, but in doing so I'd miss opportunities to attack him, and this went on for like 15 whole minutes. But it eventually was Flind who killed the third Thorm. Defeating those three was really rough, but I did earn me my fourth badge, the Thorm badge. We've been through a lot thus far, and not to sound dramatic, but we are barely getting started. It's time for us to visit Moonrise Towers and pick up the Warden, a high-quality sniper. This did start a huge prison battle though, and in the process I lost my charismatic sentinel. Those zealots hit hard. The next place for us to go is the Thorm Mausoleum. Outside, our rival is waiting for us. He warned us about a monster lurking inside, but spoiler alert, he was actually telling us about one of our greatest future allies. More on that later, but after our chat, Shadowheart and I descended deeper into the mausoleum, leading us to the Gauntlet of Shar. This place gets old fast, but what gets even more old is these damn Justiciars. We beat round 1 pretty handedly, but it was round 2 that took forever. I was in this fight for half an hour. I could have ended things sooner, of course, but I was stalling so that the big man would come out to play the Dark Justiciar Crusader. This bad boy is pretty dang strong, and he has an ability that he can use that makes him immune to physical damage, making him a solid asset. But then, while dealing with the remaining dozen or so Justiciars, I lost Flind and the Owlbear. Those are two OGs who I will mourn greatly. After that, it was clear that Flesh knew what was coming because the poor guy was standing there shaking in his non-existent boots. I fought with Balthazar, and I had a choice to make. Should I catch Flesh, or should I catch Balthazar? Well, we've got an incredibly tough fight coming up soon against the 5th gym leader, and Balthazar is going to be more or less useless there because the gym leader is immune to poison and resistant to necrotic damage, which are Balthazar's two primary sources of damage. So I caught Flesh instead because if nothing else, he'll make a great meat shield. We're not done catching New Baldermon yet because next I went and spoke to Yrgir, that monster Raphael had warned us about. Now look, I know it's fucked up, but I got Yrgir to kill his Maragons, and then I made him shoot his poor little freaky cat thing. Then once he was alone, I had my team jump in. He was not gonna make it easy to catch him though, because my team didn't have shit in terms of AoE damage, and Yrgir kept turning invisible. Eventually he slipped up, and Car-Nis landed a huge shot that got Yrgir's health real low, and I caught him. I knew Yrgir would be a great ally, but man, just you wait. Spoilers aside, we are on the fast track to meeting the 5th gym leader. I let Shadowheart do all of the trials, not really struggling a whole lot this time around, and then we took the plunge into the Shadowfell, where Shadowheart made the decision to spare the Night Song all on her own. Good for you, Shadowheart. After that was settled, we made a beeline to Moonrise to take on that gym leader I was talking about. The lag during the fight with Zorel was absolutely miserable, and you're gonna just have to take my word for it that the fight was brutal, but I squeaked by without losing anyone. Then I had had an idea. Now, normally you can't make your Mon switch equipment, but if they drop their weapon, they're able to pick it back up, or pick something else up. I dropped the Halberd of Vigilance on the ground, and he was able to equip that. How cool is that? Maybe it's not that cool. I thought it was really cool. Anyways, we went to the roof next, where we had our first round against Ketheric. He didn't really do anything on his first turn, and Aelin rocked his shit. He knocked her down for it, but then Flesh landed a shocking crit. The Warden put one in Ketheric's head, and then he ran away crying to mommy with the cool angel lady in tow. We finished off the stragglers and then dove into the Mind Flayer colony. There's only a few stops before the gym battle, and the first stop is in the Tadpoling Center. I released the captives here so that I could catch a Mind Flayer, and I did. These guys have massive AoE potential with their Mind Blast ability, so they are a great addition to any team. Then I made sure to stop by Mizora's pod and help her out so that Will wouldn't get turned into jelly. I also wrote in my notes while saving her, she's unfortunately so hot, which I can only assume is the exact sentiment that the developers were going for. Good work, guys. But that's enough talking. It's action time. I assembled my team: the Warden, the Shambling Mound, Kar'niss, Yrgir, Flesh, and the Dark Justiciar Crusader, and together we confronted Ketheric. When we walked in, Ketheric was having a meeting with, spoiler alert, 2 of the Elite Four members. We're not ready for them yet though, and after they left, we began our 5th gym battle. I wasn't gonna help out by doing any sort of damage to Ketheric, but I did run over and try to free Aelin, though I couldn't do it on this turn. Then I spent Kar'niss's and the Warden's turns setting up. Yrgir threw some mines at Ketheric, and he did nothing in return. Cool. The Crusader took on his umbral form and charged towards the enemies, which the Necromites, who I totally forgot about, apparently didn't like. The Shambling Mound pounded on their Mind Flayer, Flesh did the same, and then I was able to free Aelin. Now the real fight begins because we can actually hurt Ketheric. I first had Kar'niss finish that Mind Flayer off though, and then the Warden started it on those Intellect Devourers. Yrgir shot the mines that he'd scattered around on his previous turn and blew 2 of them up. That did good damage, but Ketheric returned the favor by throwing the remaining mine right back at my team. The Crusader got in the fray, but for some reason he was having sunlight hypersensitivity, and he was less than successful. And those Necromites kept their apparent grudge and wailed on him. The Shambling Mound tried to finish Ketheric, but he wasn't able to get it done. I tried to be big-brained on Yrgir's turn and planted some mines off to the side. We couldn't get rid of Ketheric on this turn, but Aelin, that beautiful genius, took those mines that Yrgir set and threw them at the Necromites. She's so fucking cool, man. I planted the Warden up where she'd have a good vantage point, and then, at the behest of her allies, she shot Ketheric with the lightning arrow. This did him in, and he revealed that he's not the final boss of this gym. He's just the appetizer. Merkel, pissed off and evil, rose from the depths and took up his scythe, ready to end us all for good. I had Yrgir get up next to the Warden, and he threw some more mines. Then Merkel got his turn, and he fucked the block up. He also, I'm just realizing while writing this, hurt himself pretty bad by hitting those mines. Aelin landed a big blow, and then used the remaining mine to kill the last Necromite. And then the Shambling Mound got right in there and started scrapping. Flesh tried to do the same, but couldn't hit Merkel. I had Kar'niss reposition a bit, but he also came up short. Then I had yet another bright idea. Yrgir threw some mines right next to the Warden, and then I had her throw those mines right at Merkel. Each mine deals like 30-something damage, so this worked pretty well. Then Merkel put Aelin down, but she got back up. The mound hit both of its attacks, Flesh missed again, but it was the Warden who, with that final mine, defeated Merkel. That was a long battle, but it was all worth it for this, the Badge of Merkel. We left the colony after that, and when I spoke to Halsin, I realized I totally forgot about the whole Shadow Curse thing. Dang. Well, too late now. On my way out of Act 2, we were ambushed by some Githstanki. During the fight with them, they used Yrgir's mines against me, teaching me a damn lesson, and killed the Dark Justiciar Crusader. I was sad, but to be fair, he had that whole sunlight sensitivity thing, so he probably wouldn't have done much in Act 3. I caught the leader of this bunch, and then we tried to leave this place. Before we could, the game forced me to sleep, and Aelin had a heart-to-heart with Shark. Then, in the morning, we were able to head onto the road to Baldur's Gate and leave the Shadow-Cursed lands behind. I do feel bad that I didn't lift the curse, but honestly, I trust Halsin to figure it out for himself. The gang and I arrived just outside of Rivington, and Baldur's Gate was just within our reach. But before we could celebrate, we were ambushed by even more Gith. I caught one of them for good measure, but we needed to get inside the Astral Prism to help our Guardian. Once we were in, we learned that our Guardian is a Mind Flayer named the Emperor. What a shocker! No, I mean, it was a shocker the first time I played the game, to be fair. Anyway, I helped the Emperor fend off the remaining Gith and caught the strongest of them while we were at it. That nonsense was over, and and we were finally able to rest. Shart showed us her new hair the next day, looks great, and then we met Yenna outside of Rivington. Oh, Yenna, I wish I could have saved you. Oh, sorry, I'm getting carried away. The first place I wanted to go here was the circus. I fucked with Akabi, and he returned the favor by sending me to Nam. I guess there's dinosaurs there, and I caught the... the Chult Alioramus Colossa. Yeah, I'm not calling it that. I also picked up Nirolna and made my way back to America. Shadowheart and I played Zethino's little love game, and then we watched the clown show. And holy shit, it turns out if you don't go up on stage when he asks you to, he just kills a random guy. That is crazy. Well, during that whole confrontation, I caught Shadow Whiskers the Displacer Beast. Then I went right to Worm's Crossing, where I met with my rival once again. This is our penultimate meeting, as next we meet, we'll be battling to the death. Before I could get into the big city, I first had to watch Gortash's coronation. Boo! After that, we got into the city, and I checked into the Elf Song Tavern and got us the penthouse suite. I then stopped by Sorceress Sundry's, where I stole some taxes and confronted the manager, Lae'zel. He may be a loser, but he's a solid wizard, and he'd make a good addition to my team. While fighting to catch him, though, he murdered my spectator, an OG from Act 1. Very sad. I did eventually get him without any more casualties, and while his spells aren't as insane as I was hoping, they should prove useful. I had another mon to catch, this time in the Devil's Fee. We'll be back here later, but for now, I attacked Helsik so that she'd summon these golden guys. I was here specifically for a Gilded Minotaur, and that's what I got. My team is once again pretty nasty, so I think it's time for us to get our first Act 3 badge. That badge is waiting for us down inside the House of Grief. We went downstairs, and Viconia tried to get me to give my lady to her, but I told her where she could stick it. This started the gym battle. Lyric opened up by punching Viconia, but that was about all she could do. Yrgir used his concussive blast, Lae'zel used a fireball, and the Shambling Mound wasn't really able to do anything. I had the Mind Flayer I caught back in the colony with me, and he landed a decent Mind Blast. The Minotaur was not quite as strong as I had hoped, and he didn't do much. On Viconia's turn, she smacked the shit out of Lae'zel. Yrgir kept up the AoE damage, but on Lae'zel's turn, I misclicked, and that led him to getting hurt once again, which almost killed him. I had him drink a potion of speed, and with his dying breath, he fired off a cone of cold. He died right after, and things weren't looking quite as good anymore. The Mind Flayer helped out with a big Mind Blast, and I discovered the Minotaur's charge ability on his next turn, and it was pretty solid. Lyric finished a couple of folks off, and then on my turn, I casted Haste on Yrgir. This would prove to be fucking genius. Yrgir threw some mines down, and then used his concussive blast to blow them up. Kill-tacular. It's so cool. I call it the shotgun. The Mind Flayer had a Jimmy Neutron Brain Blast, and the Minotaur pulled his weight with another charge attack. I recalled the Mind Flayer on my turn, the Minotaur charged once again, and then Lyric got put down for punching Viconia. Yrgir, no regard for Lyric, blasted Viconia with the shotgun. I was able to recall Lyric with literally 1 HP left. Then Viconia pulled a Divine Intervention out of her ass, didn't know she could do that, killing my Minotaur. Yrgir busted her with the shotgun again though, and she was in rough shape. Then, on his next turn, he hit her with a normal concussive blast, which knocked her out. The Shambling Mound punched a mine, and that put an end to this battle, earning me my first badge of Act 3, and my 6th badge total, the Badge of Loss. I stabbed Viconia after that, and then Shart was forced to kill her parents. That's rough, buddy. Back in the city, I ran into Volo, who was in a tough spot. I didn't really care about him, I just wanted to get to the Steel Watch Foundry. I felt bad when he blew up, though. Sorry, man. I caught one of his attackers, Antinia the Goon, what a silly name, and then hit the sack. Vlaakith popped up over our camp that night and tried to groom lae'zel. I don't say that as a joke, I mean that's literally what she's doing. Anyways, I may have scummed for like 20 minutes to hit a nat 20 and help lae'zel snap out of it. She denounced Vlaakith and all was good. Then after that, myself and Shadowheart shared a little moment, poor Shart. Back to the foundry, I caught a Steel Watcher on my way in. It's one of those things where it doesn't seem quite as good once it's on your team, but it couldn't hurt to have. Then we entered the foundry and I was forced to kill not only the bad guys, but also the Gondians that they had enslaved. Deeper into this horrible place, we came across a big group of enemies. This battle took a really long time, and during it, I lost my Gith monk Lyric, but in return, I gained a Hellfire Watcher. I know a Steel Watcher and a Hellfire Watcher are pretty much the same thing, but that pretty much is carrying a lot of weight. Then we entered the very heart of the foundry and found the Steel Watcher Titan, the 7th gym leader. I got right to work attacking this bad boy. It has backup though, and they fired on us right back. I casted haste on Yrgir again so he could use his shotgun, and then dropped some arrows for the warden to use. Yrgir threw some mines, and to my surprise, they exploded on impact. He blasted the Titan for good measure, and then on its turn, it didn't do much. My Mind Flayer couldn't really do anything, but the Shambling Mound dove in and tried to punch the thing. Both of my Watchers came up short on their turns, but honestly, so did the enemy Watchers. Yrgir hit the Titan with more mines and had to blow them up on his own this time. The Titan just threw up his guard again, and then got stunned by the Mind Flayer. My Mound buddy threw up on him, infecting the digestive juices conditions, and then landed both hits of his multi-attack, which entangles the target. Then, I had Shadowheart throw a potion of speed at the Mound, and guess what? The Shambling Mound ate the fucking Titan. If a target has digestive juices and is entangled, you can use the Devour attack to one-shot anything. I didn't have my mic on while I was recording this gameplay, but I was cracking up. What an insane way to kill a gym leader. It took a while, but eventually we killed the remaining Watchers, the Mound even eating another one, which is just beautiful, and that was enough to earn us our 7th badge, the Steel Watch badge. Okay, folks at home, we've got one badge left, and to get to where we need to go for it, I need to solve some murders. I saved Cora Highberry at the winery, and then saved Figaro from Dolar. During that fight, Yrgir somehow jumped through the ceiling, and then Flesh jumped through the ceiling, and then fucking Shambling Mound jumped through the ceiling. Son of a bitch! I caught Dolar though, which was useless because I needed to kill him anyways to get the passphrase that lets me into the murder tribunal. In hindsight, I probably could have pickpocketed him. Well, he's dead now. I got into the tribunal and then bypassed the 3 guards outside. I left them alive because they're going to be part of the 8th and final gym battle. I mean, it wouldn't be fair if it was just Sarevok. The fight began and Karnis dove right in. He's a little weaker than most of the team right now, but he has been clutch thus far, so I had faith. Yrgir, Hasten of course, ran up to Sarevok and put the shotgun to his dome. It somehow missed Sarevok completely, though it did mess up his Echo friends pretty bad. Ska-En killed one of the Echoes, and then I had the Mind Flayer run to the door and try to hold the Death Knights off. It worked really well. I planted Flesh next to him for safety, and then Karnis killed another Echo. Sarevok landed some hits on the Mound, but Yrgir used his shotgun again, which finished off the last Echo. The Mind Flayer, somehow, was able to keep 2 of the Death Knights at bay again, while the other 4 members, excluding him and Flesh, tried to kill Sarevok. The crazy bastard hit the Shambling Mound with an insane combo, almost killing him. Yrgir shotgunned again, of course, and Ska-En made sure the last mine hit the bastard as well. The Mind Flayer, again, managed to stun all 3 Death Knights, which was single-handedly making this fight possible. I recalled the Shambling Mound, considering how close to death he was, and then Sarevok shit all over his pants and missed all of his attacks on Karnis. I told you guys that boy was clutch. Yrgir kept up the shotgun strategy, and it was seeming to help a lot. Then, I kid you not, the Mind Flayer stunned 2 of the Death Knights again. I cannot believe it. This fight would not have been possible if they were in the mix. Karnis, though, bless his heart, finally went down on Sarevok's next turn. To avenge him, though, you'll never believe what Yrgir did. I know, shocking. And that actually put an end to the fight. Once Sarevok is dead, the Death Knights go with him, which means we've earned the final badge, the Murder Badge, and now we can take on the members of the Elite Four. First, though, I really want to grow my Baldermon options, and the place I'd like to start is the Stormshore Tabernacle Basement. If you steal some stuff down here, then you'll get attacked by a diva. The divas are pretty damn strong, and they can just spam Wrathful Smite, so they're worth having on your team. I caught one, and then remembered that it's not just the divas that'll attack you down here. If you're a cleric who worships a certain god, then you can get different creatures to attack you. For instance, I made Shadowheart, a cleric of Helm, and then we got attacked by a Djinn, another really powerful creature. We caught it, and then after respecking Shashart to be a cleric of Tiamat, we were attacked by a Cambion, who I also caught. Those are 3 really strong additions that I feel great about. What I don't feel great about is what happened in camp shortly thereafter. I have never seen this cutscene before. lae'zel claims she saw Yenna shapeshift, and after Gortash had warned us that there was a fraud in our camp, I felt like I'd be crazy not to believe her. So lae'zel puts Yenna down, and then she reveals that she is not lae'zel, but she is in fact Orin, and Orin has kidnapped lae'zel, and that was the real Yenna that I just watched die. Jesus Christ, dude, that, wow. Let's move on, shall we? So, the first Elite Four member I'll be taking on is Answer. I traveled to Worm's Rock, and I got attacked by some flaming fist there. I was really confused until I remembered that I blew up the Steel Watch Foundry, and I'm sure Gortash is pissed. I did all of the trials, felt really good about getting the chest one on my own, and then with those done, we were able to come face to face with the dragon. For this fight, I've got the Divine Trio I caught in the Stormshore Tabernacle, Yrgir, the Shambling Mound, and that handy-dandy Mind Flayer. The Diva landed a single shot, both the Cambion and the Jinn tickled Answer, and Yrgir whipped out the 12 gauge. The Shambling Mound tore up a Myrmidon, but then Answer spanked him for it. The big guy blasted the Cambion and dropped him to about half of his health. The Diva hammered away at Answer as best he could, but he was shooting about 50%. Yrgir's shotgun was working wonders, as Answer was, now like the Cambion, already at about half health. I felt like I was being tortured though when it was the Shambling Mound's turn because he had a perfect candidate for devouring right in front of him, but he couldn't move. The Mind Flayer proved he's the clutchest guy on the block by stunning Answer, and the Divine Trio kept up their attacks. Answer was at around 100 HP, and to even my own shock, Yrgir's shotgun finished him off. That is crazy. Then the Shambling Mound got to eat that guy, which was cool, and even an extra snack for the road. That's 1 out of 4 Elite Four members, and there's another member in this same place. We went from below the fortress to the very top to confront Gortash. I was a little nervous, but with the exact same team, I began the battle. Gortash blasted my squad right at the start, but Yrgir got revenge with that shotgun of his. The Diva ran up to Gortash, and that weirdo freaked out and got really big. Then we started taking out the manifestations. The fight started getting pretty ugly though when a grenade went off and killed my Mind Flayer. Yrgir didn't let that slide though and smacked Gortash upside the head. We kept hitting those manifestations and eventually we got them all. Gortash, in his big boy form, was immune to force and fire damage, so Yrgir instead focused on Gortash's friends. Once Gortash was mostly on his own, it was kind of like watching a toddler throw a tantrum. We pounded on the poor guy, he tried to fight back, and he failed miserably. But from the grave, 2 grenades went off and killed the Shambling Mound. That douchebag really got the last laugh. But with the loss of my good buddy, we were 1 step closer to the end. Back in Baldur's Gate, I wanted a decent fighter. I walked around, wandering aimlessly, until I found her. Her, Enforcer Skuna. I don't know what it was, but I fell in love and I knew I needed this lady on my team from the moment I saw her. She's also pretty nasty, level 11 with improved extra attack and some decent armor. I beat her up a little and then added her to my collection. That sounded very serial killery. Anyway, I made Shadow lae'zel so that she could use Disarming Strike on Skuna, and then I was able to give her Balduin's Giant Slayer. Now she's an absolute monster. Just what I was looking for. I also went into the Sorceress Sundry's vault to touch this lamp. Touch it and you'll get transported inside where a genie named Yafu— yeah, while editing this I realized that his name is not Yafu, it's Yafeo. Sorry, I'm kind of fucking stupid. Will tell you that you just got scammed and you are now stuck here forever. Well, I had Shart attack him when he left, and holy shit, that guy's got a lot of health. He is way tougher than I anticipated, and once we caught him, I felt on top of the world. I also gave him Nirolna, so he should be borderline unstoppable. I'm not done weighing options yet because I also picked up Mummy Boy Mystic Carrion. Then I went under the Elfsong Tavern where I caught another strong Githyanki, Harak. I gave Harak the sword. I gave Harak the sword of— oh my god, stop doing that. I gave Harak the Sword of Chaos and then stopped by the graveyard to catch Garrett. He's not as tough as I'd hoped, but like I said about that Death Shepherd like 30 minutes ago, he's decent backup. Then before facing the next Elite Four member, I also swung by the Society of Brilliance to find a massacre. Yeah, I didn't mention it earlier, but I stole an egg from the Crash in Act 1.5, and that egg hatched to be this incel. I caught him, but he wouldn't prove to be all that useful. That being said though, let's head into the Tsar Palace and take on the 3rd Elite Four member, Cazador. Inside the palace, we faced off against Godi, who showed me just why Pataris was useless. If he gets hit, he teleports back to the lodge. That does me no good. Without him on my team, we battled the werewolves and friends, and then descended into Cazador's lair. He yapped my ear off, but once he was done, we got to battling. The Diva got in there and cracked him a few good ones, and Cazador zapped us for it. Yrgir blasted Cazador with his trusty shotgun, and Harak frightened a handful of enemies. Mystic Carrion isn't quite as strong as I thought he would be, but he still was throwing hands a bit, and then I had Skuna get real big. Cazador got his turn, and blew it. I don't even know what he did. On Yurgir's turn, he did what he does best, and he blasted the vampire back to Transylvania. We played cleanup for a while, but that was pretty much it for Cazador. His fight was weirdly easy. With one Elite Four member left, I'm not gonna waste any time getting there. Well, maybe I'll waste a second to catch Alis. We're friends, so I didn't have to attack him. We made our way into Ball's weird little murder trial, and in here we did really well. What is happening? I thought this was gonna be impossible. I made my way into Ball's chamber and was reminded that Orin had taken lae'zel. Totally forgot about that, to be honest. Don't worry, lae'zel. We'll get you out of here just as soon as I take out the fourth and final Elite Four member. This fight is incredibly messy because you can't do much to Orin until the cheerleaders are dead, and Orin herself is mad strong. She scared Yafu, Harak, and Yurgir, which made them blow their turns, and Skuna was stunned, so we were off to an awful start. The Diva is strong, but he was really struggling to help much because he has no AoE attacks to help him damage the cultists that are sanctuaried. Skuna got torn up and almost died. Yurgir, Yafu, and Harak were still all shaking in their boots, and Mysticarian couldn't hurt Orin to save his life. Skuna fought back, but there wasn't much she could do to Orin while she had her unstoppable buff. The Diva got stunned, and Orin continued her assault on Skuna. Yurgir finally got to do something, and his shotgun proved to be pretty effective against the Chanters. Harak got in there and landed some hits, but again, while Orin is unstoppable, it's a losing battle. Orin switched aggro to Harak though, and dropped her health like a rock. Yurgir was still street sweeping, and all the rest of the gang could do is stand around and wait. Eventually, they whittled down the Chanters, and Orin was finally vulnerable. Now, of course, Harak wanted to miss her attacks, and Skuna could only land a few before being forced to retreat with a single HP remaining. Good thing she's an orc, otherwise she'd be dead. The Diva missed his attacks, but then Orin went crazy on Harak and killed her. Bummer, but we are still very much in this. I threw all caution to the wind and had Yurgir shotgun the whole team. Was it a good idea? No, not at all. Orin ran out of free hits though, and on her turn, she kinda ran around and freaked out. I almost felt bad. Almost. Yurgir slapped her real good, and then the Diva, who had a really rough time for that entire battle, was the one to finish her off. That means the Elite Four is completely defeated, and all we need to do now is take on Raphael. I made a terrible decision while I was still in this place though, and tried to catch an unholy assassin. She stabbed Skuna and did 122 fucking damage. I really liked Skuna. I was majorly bummed by her loss, but I did catch that assassin in return. Gotta say, not worth. We got attacked by some mind flayers out in the city, which was perfect because I lost my mind flayer to Gortash. I don't totally feel ready for Raphael yet, so I did a little more shopping around. I ended up catching Cash Guard Captain Farrell, as well as Black Gauntlet Uva. But I guess that's it. No more stalling. Let's dive into Avernus and face our rival, Raphael. So inside the House of Hope, we meet Hope. She asks us to free her, and I, of course, agree to. First, though, I stopped by Raphael's bedroom and killed Harlep. If you're wondering why I didn't catch him, I don't know. That's all I got. Then I ran and grabbed my contract and tore that bad boy up. The problem with that is, though, that when you rip up the contract, Yurgir suddenly loses his ability to throw mines. It's a really weird and random issue, I know, but there's some deeper game flagging issues that I won't go into. So just know now that Yurgir has been neutered and the shotgun is no more. Rest in peace. I went down into the jail after taking care of the contract and caught a spectator before breaking Hope's chains and setting her free. You know how in Pokemon, sometimes other trainers will help you? Think of Hope as one of those trainers, because her and I are gonna take part in the fight with Raphael. I mean, come on. You thought I wasn't gonna fight my own rival? We get back into the House of Hope where we come face to face with the final boss, Raphael. He also thinks he has Yurgir, but little does he know, Yurgir is actually on our side. That aside though, I didn't mince words with him for long, and down came the claw. The Diva started us off once again, he must have some insane initiative, and I had him go straight for one of the soul pillars. With a potion of speed, he was able to take the pillar down. Raphael's Cambion buddies fired on us with everything they had, and honestly it was pretty scary. I went and broke another pillar by myself, and Yafu got started on the third one. Farrell went and helped him, getting it to literally 2 health, and then Yurgir attacked Raphael directly, killing his little girlfriend. The Mind Flayer didn't manage to stun a single creature with its Mind Blast, which was a bummer, and I had Shadowheart run out of the room so that she wouldn't take any attacks, which would feel like cheating. Speaking of cheating, I immediately had Hope use her Divine Intervention, and for some reason, she not only survived, but also was able to do it again. I have no idea how that happened, but you'd best believe I wasn't not gonna use it. Things were looking good, and I almost felt guilty, like I had made this too easy. But then Raphael went super demon and reminded me that he's the champion for a reason, killing Hope and the Mind Flayer with a single attack. I wasn't letting up though and went straight for the last pillar. Farrell grew large to try and match Raphael, and Yrgir hit him as hard as he could. There were only a few Cambions left, and they were dropping like flies. Raphael then blasted the life out of Farrell, and even managed to hurt Yafu pretty good. I broke the last pillar, and could now focus on attacking Raphael himself. Farrell went to smite him, but ended up burning to death before she could. Yrgir in this neutered form wasn't too much help, but Uva finished off the last Cambion, and it was now a 1v5. Again, at this point, I thought maybe I had let this fight be too easy. Raphael dropped his big form, and I knew I had it in the bag. Yrgir blasted him, Uva blighted him, the D.Va hammered him, Yafu slapped him, but Raphael wasn't done. He blasted Yafu and the D.Va, and then turned poor Uva to ash. We're down to a 1v4, and the D.Va really put the hurt on. My rival then, again, blasted my team. The D.Va and Yafu were both lost to the flames, and it was just now Yrgir and myself against about half of Raphael's maximum health. I swung and swung and swung, and Raphael was dumb enough to focus on Yrgir and do fire damage to him, which Yrgir's resistant to, which worked out perfectly for me. Yrgir blasted. I attacked. Raphael missed. Yrgir missed. I attacked again. Raphael missed again. And then it was Yrgir, the Gotamon, who put the man down. That fight was fucking brutal. But hey, it's over now at least. I mean, that's the end of the challenge. I got my badges, beat the Elite Four, and toppled my rival, even if it was pretty ugly. I'm the champion now, but thinking about it, what does that really mean if the world's about to end? See, Team Galactic is nearing universal domination, so I guess we've still got a little more work to do. I traveled to the Morphic Pool where I confronted the Brain. It was too powerful though, and I was forced to retreat. While I recovered though, the city was falling to ruin. Mind flayers in the streets, innocents being killed. I needed to take some extreme measures, and I found those measures in betraying the Emperor. I set Orpheus free, and he became a Mind Flayer so that he could dominate the Brain when the time came. We made our way into the High Hall where I was greeted by some allies. The allies I'm worried about though aren't my allies yet. I fought and captured a Mind Flayer, and then deep in the sewers I caught one of the most powerful Baldermon out there, Stalker Sphigny. Finally, we were ready to take down Team Galactic, and as I approached the courtyard battle, all of my Baldermon appeared. I really didn't do that, and it was clearly a glitch, but I figured, you know what, hey, while we're all here, why not? So me and all of my Baldermon ran into battle, and it was so insanely cool. And guess what? We didn't lose a single person. Not even the Owlbear Cub, who I forgot to mention like 45 minutes ago. We all survived, and though I'd only take 6 of these guys with me to the final battle, it was really cool to see all of my Mons fighting side by side. Those 6 that will be coming with me are none other than Yrgir the Orphan, the Spectator, the Mind Flayer, Mystic Carrion, Stalker Sphigny, and the Cambion. These 6 will decide the fate of the universe. We climbed to the top of the Brain where we were confronted by the Emperor atop a red dragon, a legendary Baldermon, and he had 2 Dream Guardians to back him up. The fight began and Yrgir ran right in. He blasted 3 of them, breaking the Emperor's shield. The Cambion managed to hit the Emperor once as well, but the Mind Flayer had no such luck. The Spectator also didn't do very well, but Orpheus showed them how it's done, fracturing the dragon's psyche and then mind blasting both the dragon and the Emperor, leaving them stunned. Sphigny carved a path through the tentacles, and Mystic Carrion stopped holding back and busted out a few scrolls I'd been hanging onto, finishing the Emperor off for good. The Illithid Arcanists fired away at my team, but we were far from done. Yrgir slashed the dragon, the Mind Flayer stunned it, the Spectator chomped it, Orpheus terrorized it, Sphigny chopped away at it, and Mystic Carrion blasted the ever-loving shit out of it, leaving it with a sliver of health which allowed me to catch the legendary Baldermon. With the dragon out of the way, Orpheus opened a portal straight into the mind of the Nether Brain, and we all piled in. The person to put the Brain down for good though was Sphigny, laying into it with a staggering smite, bringing an end to Team Galactic's evil plans. Orpheus used the Nether Stones to destroy the Brain, and the Illithids that had threatened to take over the world were no more. Folks at home, I am really at a loss for words. I had so much fun with this mod, and I can't thank its creator enough. I can definitely say this is the most fun I have ever had doing gameplay for a video. I loved the Eldamon series, and this one had all sorts of new spins on it. It was a really good time. I think the indisputable MVP of this run was Yrgir. I mean, some others were awesome, but Yrgir was my guy from the second I caught him to the very end of the game. If you want to try this mod out for yourself, then good news. It's easier than ever to get mods. You can do it right inside the game's mod manager if you want. I had so much fun, and I cannot wait to see what other sorts of crazy mods come out in the future. And who knows, maybe I'll do this one again someday, but like randomized, or on honor mode, or after it's had some big updates or something. The person working working on it seems really passionate about it, which makes it even cooler. That's it for me, though. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. You guys know the drill by now. Thank you again. GG's, everybody.